Hi, I'm Norm DeLaura from Freedom Mortgage, and we're here at our Real Estate Toolbox. I'm going to introduce the panel, starting over here. Go ahead.
Ready? My name is Jim Rogers. I'm an attorney at Levine, Mark, Rogers & Brueggemann in Manchester and West Hartford.
And I'm Joan Gillette, and I'm an insurance agent for the state of Connecticut.
Jim Bradshaw, Realtor, Century 21 Classic Homes.
Paul Casapos, Realtor, Century 21 Classic Homes.
And basically what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a few topics that most home buyers have questions on that they don't know to ask. Our first question is going to go over you, Mr. Rogers. Give me an example of what the difference is between owner's title and lender's title. You know, we see on the good faith as a lender myself, we see on the good faith estimates that they're paying for two titles. What's the difference between the two, and why do they need it?
Title insurance is very important because the title insurance policy protects the holder of that policy. So, for example, a lender's title insurance policy is going to protect the lender's interest in the property up to the loan amount. If there's any title issues or other matters affecting the ownership of the property, that doesn't affect the owner, however. That's why owner's title insurance is important. Examples of why you would need an owner's title insurance policy as a homeowner, above affecting what the lender's interest might be, for example, would be if there's an encroachment. So a survey is not done at the time of closing because we rely on a survey affidavit from the seller. But say, for example, they didn't know that the neighbor's garage was 2 feet onto their property, or if there was a mortgage that wasn't properly recorded on the land records, or now even expanded owner's policies protect things like building permits or zoning issues. So say, for example, at some point in the past, an owner of the property had added an addition to the property without getting the proper building permit. Now the town finds out it violates the zoning law, and they require the now owner of the property to remove that. Title insurance would pay for something like that. If they just had a lender's policy protecting only the lender's interests, it may not protect their ownership interest in the property, especially if the owner of the property has a lot of equity in the property.
So as you can see, the lender's policy and the owner policy should be on every single transaction.
Absolutely, because it's a big transaction, you're putting a lot of money into it, you should be protected.
Speaking of insurance, that leads us right over here, Joan. As far as insurance goes for the home itself, you know, when it comes to, some people call it homeowners, some people call it hazard insurance. Give me an idea of what those insurances are. Are they the same, or are they separate, and what do they normally cover?
They're basically the same. It's just the terminology is different between hazard and homeowners insurance. And what it does, it's a type of insurance that protects the individual residents once they purchase that home. Some of the coverages that can be included in it are smoke, vandalism, fire, the snow, the ice that we recently just had, and those are just a few of the ones that are covered within each policy.
Now, typically, when you're deciding on a policy, do you go to the property itself to get idea what the conditions are, or is it typically done just by an appraisal? How do you determine how you're going to get the homeowner's insurance for that particular property?
There's various different ways. Sometimes we do actually go to the homeowners, the new property that they would be purchasing. We do go through the assessors, and we consult with the client one-on-one just to see what is their the home that they are purchasing.
Perfect. Jim, speaking of homes being purchased, in the transactions that we've done, you've always mentioned that it's always good that we have a good team. Can you expand a little bit more on that? What do you mean by a good team?
Absolutely. The real estate purchase of real estate is probably one of the biggest investments that you're going to make. Very important to have a good team for a few reasons. Sometimes we find, for instance, if you have an attorney that doesn't practice real estate all the time and they practice other types of real estate, they're not fluent on a lot of the things that come up law regarding real estate. Another thing that we find sometimes, if you have a team that they're not familiar with each other and they don't know each other, we find, unfortunately, a lot of egos that are involved. And so we don't have the connection that we should have. One person mentioned that team stands for together everyone achieves more.
That's a great
So it's very important.
Now, when you're forming your teams, how important is it for the client first to know, okay, this is why I'm forming this team? Do you got to go over with the client, this is why we need to have everyone working on the same page how do you actually approach the client and explain that to them?
We sit down, it's really part of the buyer's presentation or a time that we spend together to talk. Try to tell them a little bit about the attorney, a little bit about the firm, a little bit about the home inspection, insurance agent, things to look for, so they're a little more prepared to speak and interact with the team, and also to let them know the order of the way things are going to unfold.
How things are going to progress in the buying process.
Absolutely.
And this kind of goes to what Paul always says, and Paul, if you can kind of get a little bit more, expand on, what do you mean by forming relationships compared to a transaction when buying and selling real estate? What do you mean by that?
Sure. Well, first of all, and to feed off of what Jim just said also, when you're dealing with a team, you're dealing with a group of people that are together, okay? It's the same thing with the agent that you're working with. As an agent, when I work with a client or a customer, I try to relate and become part of what they need answered, the questions they need answered. I will take them out to a listing. I will show them the listing. We'll talk. I want to create a comfort level where they feel 100% comfortable that I'm going to work with them from beginning to end. And when I say beginning to end, a transaction is part of the sale. But the transaction is where I make the sale and then I go on to the next one. I don't just go on to the next one. I continually communicate with my clients afterwards. If they have a question, they need a plumber, or if they need somebody else that needs, they can call me. If they need to come over to the house to look at something because they're not sure why this is happening, I'll be there. I will be there with them from the day we begin till after the day we're done, so that they can have a comfort of somebody they can talk to, and I can help them if they need a question by Jim Rogers answered. I'll say, call Jim, he can answer that for you. He's part of the team. He will help you. And we will always be together and work with you. And I've got clients that I've been working with for years that have bought from me that still call me, and we communicate, and they ask me questions that I can help them with.
I can't agree more. And as far as relationships go, this is kind of where, as a lender, our relationship with the buyer actually starts. Is before they really go out and start purchasing, or they go out and refinance, or whatever their situation happens to be. It's a matter of getting approved and knowing what their options are. And the first step is credit. Credit is the number one thing that a new buyer or someone refinancing or even the sellers need to know about. And the specific reason for that is that's what's going to determine everything that they've had, which is what everyone worries about, is what's my mortgage going to be? How much is my homeowner's insurance going to be? What is this going to be? It's all based off your credit. And if you don't understand how credit works, and you don't understand why your score's where it's at, that's going to be a detriment to you somewhere along the line. And that's why my first goal is to kind of educate the individual as how credit works and give them some of the other tools that they can use, which are for free. Give them those tools that are online that are available to everybody that they may not know about. You could have a situation where you're a couple points below where you need to get approved, and it would take that one extra step just to get where you need to be. Sometimes it's not as hard as you think. That's why I think that's the first thing everyone should do, is always work on their credit. Thanks for joining us at the Real Estate Toolbox. For more information, please visit any of our websites, like us on our Facebook pages, and we'll talk to you at our next gathering. Thank you very much for watching.